Hello again, Cuppa Tea Quilters. This is the second block, so part 2 of the lazy angle block. This is our lazy angle ruler. So I just took a video of the very first block, which was a 2-section, 1A and 1B. This time we are adding a second B shape. So I will take a picture and post this. This is the pattern right here. But what it says up top, it says that we need 4 A's, 4 right A's, 4 right B's, and 4 left B's. So basically this whole block, here's the drawing of it, is gonna have 12 pieces. So the first step is exactly like the video that you just watched, or if you haven't watched it, go back and watch that. So here's my right A and my right B. So if Kenny will show this section right here, there's my right A and my right B. And the reason that it's right is because the corner is pointing to the right. This one is a left B because it's pointing to the left. So that's where something new is gonna come in for this block. So the first step is we're gonna sew together our A and our B, and it's gonna look like this. So that's the first step. And then what we're going to do is we're gonna recut this, and this is where everybody's, oh my gosh, but this is what we do. When we're going to anytime add a left B to a shape, this has to be on the left side. So when I'm looking at this, what we need to do is flip this over. So Kenny, why don't you come around on this side now, because then they can kind of see. The first step you're gonna do is you're gonna flip it over. And the way that I want this block to look is it's going to have 2 pointing to the corner. This is what the block is gonna look like when it's finished. So the very first thing that we need to do is cut some of these left B shapes. So here is your strip. I'll put it on the green so it's easier to see. And we need some B shapes. And B is the little triangle. So I'm going to where my strips are 4.5 inches. And because I put the pretty side down, these are automatically going to be left facing shapes. So there's one. And you see how if I turn it over, it's pointing to the left. So now remember, we need to take the ruler and you need to flip it, line it back up, no waste. There's my second B shape. And how many of these do I need, Kenny?
4.
4. He's not even a quilter and he knows that. Okay, so there is my left 4th shape. Okay, so now I'm gonna take my first block that I did, and in these drawings, I draw where the angle is going, and it'll say to flip it over. So step 1 looks like this. You're making 4 of those. Then you're gonna recut that to a left A, which means I'm going to flip it over. So what I normally do is make one block to the side, and then I can visually see, okay, this is what I'm making right here. So when I flip it over, you have to figure out what direction you're gonna flip it to. So what I do is I return this, so now I see that A, like that, and then I would flip it this direction. So when I'm flipping these, this is how it's gonna be pointed down. And I did draw that. When you get these, I did draw it like this. So that is the way that you want your blocks to look. So I'm gonna take all of these right now and flip them over, except for my final piece there. I'm missing one, there it is. So the next step, when I go to recut this to an A, lining it up on that 4.5, and don't worry, see how that right there doesn't line up very well? Don't worry about that. Come over here to where, and I had black thread on this one, line up your dotted line. So your dotted line is your sewing line. So I'm lining up the bottom right here. I'm not worrying, because if I lined it up like this, then it's crooked. I don't want it to be crooked. I want it to be straight. And you don't want to retrim these. So line it up right here where it's square, and then make sure that the dotted line on your ruler is pointing that seam line. And then I'm going to recut this, move that to the side, and there's my A shape. So I will do that again so you can see it. Here's my upside down block. It's pointed in the direction that my drawing on the paper is pointed. I need the 4.5 because that's my size. I want to make sure that the dotted line is on the seam line that I've already sewn, because you're cutting off a little section there. There's my garbage piece. And I've got another one here. Getting lots of practice because you're watching all of those. Cutting that off. And then I have the one that I'm using as my visual. I need to cut that one as well. So you should have 4 little A's. And these are called left A's because they are facing, they're pointing to the left. And I'll turn that over and you'll see why in a second. Okay. Now these could easily get confused with your B's, but the B's are squared off on the end and these are not. So I don't throw them away because I might use them again for something else, but all right. So there's a left A. Do you see how it's pointing to the left? That's why it's called left A. So I'm going to flip all those over. The only way that I can add a left B is to a left A, and it says that on your paper that you'll get. And so now you're going to line this part up. Same way you did before, you're going to have the dog ears. And when I bring it to the sewing machine, I usually kind of line them up to the side. So there's my B, flipping it over. You want to have the dog ears. There's 2, and you should have 4. And I always re-line them up again when I get over there. But there's my 4. Now I'm going to sew. So it's a little bit harder to see these dog ears, but there's 1 there, there's 2 there, and then there's 1 on the bottom. And again, you're going to start sewing in that valley, and you're going to end up where those 2 meet. That's how you know if you're getting it right on the seam or not. So kind of start, I'll show you a little bit easier on this one. I'm going to start sewing right here where those little squares meet. And I'm chain piecing those down. And I should end. And now because you've cut that off, it's kind of at the bias, so just be careful not to overstretch it. And I should end up, if I'm doing it right, you should end up right in that little valley there. And this is going to make a really pretty block. It's going to have a totally different look than the first one. And this is called a 2-piece block because you start with an A and then you are adding 2 B's. So that's pretty much what we do with this ruler every single time. You're going to sew an A to a B to make your block, and then you're going to recut it to either another A or a left A or a right A, and then you're adding B's, either a left or a right. All right, I think I will go and iron these open. I'm just loving being on this side of the camera. So when you iron it open, if you've got the little wool pad, those are nice. Does both sides of it a little bit nicer, but that's your block. And don't worry if some of it is not a little square when you add it all up or sew them all together. It all works out. So I do not pre-trim these. See how on this one, that's hanging over a lot? That piece may not have been 4.5 inches. knows why that stuff happens. I always say fabric has a mind of its own, so. Okay, so there is the new block you created. So when I sew these together, this is what it's gonna look like. How cool is that? I'm at 10 minutes, okay, talk faster. Okay, so now, when I'm sewing these, and because that one's funky, you can cut that if you want. I'm not going to. But I'm going to line these up, and I'm going to make sure that these two seams go together like that. So I'll show it on this one. This one lines up a lot better. So I'll take that back over here. I'm going to cut this one off because I want you guys to be able to sleep at night. I'm sure that's bothering some people. There you go. So that's going to go back like that. Line those up. Bottom half. And sometimes too, these little dog ears that stick out, they will line up perfect for you. So that's kind of, I don't recommend cutting those off and trimming your block to be a perfect square, because then you use those dog ears as lining up mark. Okay, I'm not gonna iron this section because Kenny says we're already over 10 minutes. I was trying to keep these to 10 minutes. Okay, there's my bottom. Not perfect, but good enough for me. Same thing we did before. Because I didn't iron it, I could manipulate it however way I want it to go. I'm gonna make those two kind of mush together. Use my clip. And then these sections, this is what I was talking about. You can see those dog ears. Use those to line each other up. Squish it together with your fingers. Last seam, then we're done for the day. Okay, here we go. This is our second block. Look how cute that is. And if you used 4.5-inch strips, this should be an 8.5-inch block. So there you have it. I will send out the month 2. This one's called the Winter Star block, and you'll get the pattern that I drew up, and there's your finished block. Let me know if you have any questions, comments, that kind of thing, and we'll see you guys soon. Thanks for watching.